Hello and welcome to Open Line. I'm Starlene Stringer. Now, whether we are a driver or a passenger, issues on the roads affect us all. On this edition of Open Line, we have some of the latest research and information that can help keep you and your family safe in traffic. Doug Shoup is with AAA-Texas, and I want to thank him for being here as our special guest.
Hi, Starlene. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. We have a lot of questions for you, and one big one that everybody talks about these days is construction. And we'll start with that because we see a lot of work right now on the Midtown Express in particular. So give us some tips for driving through construction zones.
Yeah, at any given time, there are about 2,500 active work zones throughout the state of Texas. We are growing so much here in Irving as well as across the Metroplex. So there are going to be a lot of construction areas out there. Unfortunately, there are those tragedies that happen, not just for construction workers, but the vast majority of collisions in work zones happen with the driver, the personal driver of a vehicle. And the top two causes for work zone related crashes are speeding and driver inattention. Traffic fines do double in work zones and when workers are present, and those can also be punishable if you're caught speeding in a work zone by up to $2,000.
Wow.
So it's so important for drivers to really watch those work zones out there. Often you're driving very close to construction workers or very heavy equipment. So that's why you have to pay attention and obey the speed limits.
Good advice. And what about driving too close to the vehicles in front of you? Following distance, does that play a role in incidents out there too? And what do you recommend? Should we leave more space when going through construction zones?
Yeah, that's a great question. You really want to, allow yourself extra time to get to your destination to begin with, so you're not in a rush. Try to map out the route that you're going to take. Know where the construction zones are and try to avoid them if you can. And then if you are in a construction zone, definitely, allow yourself extra space between your vehicle and the other vehicle. You want to watch 15 seconds out, because if a vehicle in front of you has to come to a stop real quickly, you want to make sure that you're not tailgating and you're going to be able to stop safely as well.
That's good to know. And so you mentioned knowing where the construction zones are. Is it just by habit of driving through the same locations all the time, or is there a way people can find out where construction's going on these days?
Well, certainly, because we have all of the roads that are under construction at different times, you want to make sure that you are up to date with where those construction work areas are. The Texas Department of Transportation, simply, Google TxDOT. That's a great resource to find out the ongoing projects and knowing where you're going to find that type of construction. You can also use AAA's mobile app, and you can download the mobile app to your iPhone, your iPad, or your Android, and it will also, you can map out your route and find out where those construction areas, where those problematic or slow areas could be.
Sounds like a smart thing to do. Okay, something else that can be troubling when you're driving through construction zones or just at all on the freeways: rain. Rain can add to hazards out there on the roads and complicate everything. I mean, we've seen different roads that have just been pulled with water, different flooding that's caused different accidents. What's the best course of action when it's raining outside?
Well, really the best thing to do is prepare for wet weather driving. We never know when it's going to rain, right? The weather changes from almost 1 minute to the next here in Texas. So always making sure that your vehicle is prepared for wet weather driving is key. Make sure that your tires are properly inflated. Make sure that you have those windshield wipers that are relatively new or in good condition so that it's not streaking, which can affect your vision when you're on the roadway.
So true. I've been guilty of that myself.
Right. Yeah. And especially after the long summer, the really hot summer, those windshield wipers could be pretty brittle and in bad shape. So you want to check those to make sure that you're going to get a good clean wipe so you can see out of the windshield. You want to make sure that if you are driving in rainy weather or wet weather, that you're keeping your vehicle clean. Believe it or not, you need to wash those headlights because you want to be able to see the road ahead of you. You want other drivers to see your vehicle when you're driving in wet weather with the headlights on. And so that's really important to do because, just keeping that vehicle maintained is one of the most important things. And then also obeying the speed limit, and actually in wet weather, you want to drive to the conditions. So if the speed limit is perhaps 55 miles per hour, 65 miles per hour, but it's raining really hard, you want to actually drive less than that. Drive for the conditions that are present, and really be mindful that during the first 10 minutes of rain, once it starts, that's when the roads are most slick and slippery, because that's when all of the oils, any kind of oily substance on the roadways surface up in the water and make the roads very slippery. Allow yourself plenty of stopping distances, because you want to be able to come to a complete stop rather than skid. If you do find yourself in a skidding situation, it's really important to remember, try not to panic. That's the number one thing. Stay calm. Make sure that you continue to look and steer in the direction that you want that vehicle to go.
Great advice. Now, before we get to some of the other big issues, a lot of people may not know all the information that you have to share about AAA-Texas. They may go, I've heard the name, I'm kind of familiar with AAA, but what should we really know about AAA?
The great thing about AAA is we have been traffic safety advocates for more than 100 years. Wow. I mean, AAA was out there before the vehicles were all over the roadways, making sure that the roadways were properly marked, making sure that the roadways were properly paved to get the vehicles out there on the roadways safely. And over the years, it's just expanded. Of course, most people do know AAA for our roadside assistance. When you need help, you simply call 1-800-AAA-HELP, and you can get someone to help you get your vehicle on your way safely and quickly. But we also offer insurance and other products and services. We're a full-service travel agency. We have 14 AAA-Texas branches here in the Metroplex. You can find the closest one to you at AAA.com. And the best thing, though, really is we have a heart for traffic safety. We have the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety. It's our research organization that's since 1947 has dedicated itself to really interesting and also helpful research projects to make roads safer, to make driving behaviors, let the public understand the types of driving behaviors out there when they encounter them. And the goal is just to make the drivers safer out there on the roadways. We have more than 250 projects that have been funded by the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety, and they run the gamut, to how to improve personal driving, how to encounter problems on the roadway. For example, road debris, which is all over the place, it seems, these days. They look at a really important research on cognitive distractions and what teens are distracted by these days, the most common causes of distraction for teenage drivers. But beyond teens, we're also biggest initiatives making seniors better drivers and safer drivers, making sure that young children are properly fitted in child safety seats.
Which can be very difficult to figure out.
Right, it really
sometimes
can be. Yes, absolutely. And because there are so many different types of vehicles, so many different types of child passenger safety seats. So the research really is out there because we firmly believe that the better educated that drivers are, the better equipped they are to make themselves safer on the roadways, which really helps us all because we're all sharing the road together.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about young people. I mean, you recently shared some alarming information, some timely information about child pedestrian deaths. Can you fill us in?
Yeah, this is the time of year where the kids are back in school. And those afternoon hours between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. are the most dangerous hours on the roadway for child pedestrians. That's when the most fatalities happen. Over the last decade, the research shows 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. that's the dangerous time, because if you think about it, you've got kids making their way home from school, you have drivers making their way home from work.
Sure.
Also, it's getting darker earlier.
Yeah.
Right? So that causes some issues for some drivers. And that's why it's really important for parents to talk with their children about properly looking both ways when getting on and off the school bus. Making sure that those bicyclists are wearing a helmet on every ride. Making sure that the children understand the importance of using crosswalks, not passing between parked cars, obeying the instructions of the crossing guards. And then for the drivers out there, just to be mindful, the kids are out there once again. You really need to scan the roadway and look for. Children are often excited when they're going to school or returning home from school. They can dart out between parked cars. Drivers, it's really important that you are very slow. You're obeying those speed limits in school zones and in residential areas. You're very cautious around playgrounds, play areas, anywhere where children can be. Never be distracted by mobile devices, by eating, by music, changing music, by other passengers in the vehicle. This is the time where you really have to watch those school buses and make sure that you're stopping for those school buses when those arms are extended, and watch for those kids getting on and off the buses.
Great advice again. And now let's go to a little bit older children. Let's talk about teens, which we're watching out for them on the streets too, because sometimes they're just as distracted as the younger kids. But when it comes to teens, there's an annual event here in Irving that you guys do. It's really great. We have some video to show from last year. But first, tell us what happens inside Lively Point Youth Center.
Well, the city of Irving has been so wonderful with AAA-Texas over the last several years in helping us host this event. And it takes place at Lively Point Youth Center. And inside the gymnasium, you'll find law enforcement officers, other traffic safety advocates setting up booths. You'll also hear from families who've lost loved ones, lost teen drivers as a result of impaired driving or as a result of distracted driving. And you know, they come to this event because they want to share their stories with the hope that these teens meeting somebody who's lost somebody and talking with them, it will really resonate. It's something that they're going to leave this event and remember. Hey, you know, there was that one day that I heard about this story. I'm in a similar situation now. Maybe I should talk to my friend about this to get out of this situation or avoid this situation, or remind my friend, hey, you know, don't text while you're driving. It's really important information, but also it's the personal stories that the teens get to hear. And we encourage parents to come with their teens and visit all of the booths that are inside the gymnasium and take that information home. It's great for pre-permit teens, you know, those who haven't started the graduated driver licensing program yet.
Right.
And it's also great for those drivers that are new behind the wheel. Maybe they're in their provisional license, or maybe they've got their full license but just recently started driving.
And so there's things going on inside Lively Point, and then there's things going on outside too at the same time, right?
Yeah, outside is great. You know, the Irving Police Department helps us out every year, and they use the fatal vision goggles to let the kids see what those look like, which you know, mimic what it is like to be impaired. And they do mock field sobriety tests for the teens, so they can really see what kind of an impact, you know, being impaired would have on their abilities to just walk a straight line. We also have the rollover convincer that comes each year. This is really an interesting device. Texas A&M Passenger Safety helps us out with this by bringing this event. It's a vehicle. It looks like the skeleton of a cab, of a pickup truck. And you actually strap the dummies in there, and it shows what happens when there's a rollover collision. You know, a lot of teens think that it's going to be okay if, you know, I just wear my lap belt. They don't like the shoulder harness. But what this device does is it shows how important it is to use both the shoulder and the lap belt, because they actually show the dummies with just the lap portion, and you just see the torso flying back and forth in this device. And you know, really seeing this type of stuff is what teens need to do to develop those safe driving habits, and hopefully change any bad driving habits that they may have started with. And you know, one thing that's really important to mention also is if we want our teens to be good drivers, we have to be good role models behind the wheel, right?
Exactly. I was thinking as you said that, I said there's some adults that need to see that too.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why we encourage parents to come with their teenagers to this event.
So when is it?
This is going to be on Saturday, October 15th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Lively Point Youth Center, which is just across the street from Irving High School.
And it's free?
It's absolutely free. Yep, the more people that we can share this information with, we invite, you know, bring friends and family members and teens of all ages. Bring the young kids too, because, you know, what better way to make sure that those pre-permit teens are getting good information by starting to talk about driver safety at an early age.
I was going to ask you, while we're talking to the young people, while we have the teens listening and their parents paying attention, what's the biggest danger for teen drivers these days?
Well, you know, that's a good question, because a lot of people think that it's the mobile devices, right? But the research from the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety looked at, you know, why teens are distracted, what's causing them to be distracted. And it actually found that the mobile devices was not number one, but rather it was interacting with another passenger in the vehicle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and here in Texas, the state's graduated driver licensing laws set limitations on how many young passengers can be in a vehicle with a teen driver. During that first provisional license year, that first year of the provisional license, no more than one passenger under the age of 21 with that teen driver. So coming to the Teen Driver Fair, you're going to get that type of information, understanding why it's important to follow the state's graduated driver licensing laws. You'll get information about the risks that other young passengers cause when a young driver's first behind the wheel and trying to learn all of the challenges that come with driving and being a responsible driver. And I got to tell you, I was a news reporter for many years, and as you know, there are all those tragic stories about a teen driver with a car full of teens. They get into a crash and there are multiple fatalities.
Right.
And anything that we can do to help the teens understand the potential consequences out there is what the goal of this Teen Driver Safety Fair is all about. Wonderful.
And some of the information that you've been sharing comes from the AAA Foundation of Traffic Safety. Tell me about what that foundation actually does.
Yeah, the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety, founded back in 1947. It's really our research arm, and it's just a great organization that's funded more than 250 research projects. And the goal is just to educate drivers, because if we can educate drivers about what the traffic safety culture is, what the potential dangers are on the roadway, the better equipped that they're going to be safe drivers, to remember what the potential challenges are. And so the research has covered all kinds of cognitive distraction studies. One of them that found that, hands-free does not necessarily mean risk-free, meaning, we've got these newer vehicles that have this voice technology, the talk-to-text features. Well, the research from the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety found that even using that type of new technology, which is hands-free, doesn't necessarily mean that you're safe. Your mind could still be very distracted. And in fact, after completing a task using this type of technology, your mind could be distracted for up to 27 seconds while it readjusts to the task of driving. It also looks at, road rage issues, road debris issues.
Let's talk a bit about that road debris. I know that's a huge concern. It can be so dangerous, and as you said, previously working as a reporter, it can be fatal oftentimes.
Yeah, and you don't have to drive very far here in Irving, whether you're on 183 or anywhere in the city of Irving or outside throughout the Metroplex to encounter some type of road debris. You see mattresses on the side of the road, you see pieces of furniture, large armchairs, it is, pieces of vehicles.
So Doug, if we have to carry something around, if we're hauling something ourselves, what should we know? What should we do?
Well, the best thing that you can do is take the extra time to make sure if you're moving something that your load is secured properly. You want to tie heavy objects directly to the vehicle itself. You want to use strong ties or straps to tie all of the objects down. Use some type of netting or cover to cover the entire load before you actually try to transport it. You also want to make sure that you're not overloading the back of a pickup truck. Quite often we see those pickup trucks that just overloaded with stuff. If you're driving at highway speeds,
what should we do if we're behind someone that's got a car like that?
Yeah, certainly what you want to do is try to avoid following that vehicle. As drivers, we want to continue to look up to 15 seconds out, looking for the potential of road debris out there. Try to leave an open lane next to you so that if you need to, you can actually vacate the lane that you're in to avoid road debris. What you don't want to do is swerve and then overcorrect. Unfortunately, many of the fatalities that happen as a result of road debris crashes happen when that driver overcorrects. So the best thing to do is avoid it to begin with. Drivers certainly can, that are transporting things, can do that by securing their load, but also everybody can try to prevent road debris by keeping our vehicles maintained, making sure that those tires are properly inflated so they don't cause blowouts. Then you have the pieces of rubber in the road, making sure that the exhaust systems are maintained properly so you don't have mufflers in the middle of the lanes of traffic. Right.
Something else you mentioned a little bit was about road rage. Let's go back to that because I understand it's pretty bad out there. What's the most common cause of road rage, or what do people usually do when they're outraged by someone?
Well, unfortunately, road rage happens all too often, right? People are just too much. They see driving as like a competition. I got to get there first. I got to get in this lane first. I got to, get to the red light first. And really what we are encouraging people to do is think about the potential consequences of getting involved in an altercation with somebody out there. You hear those stories all too often where drivers engage in some type of disagreement while they're driving and then they pull over and try to settle it face to face. That's the last thing that you should be doing. If you find that you are encountering an angry driver, the best thing to do is let them go on their way. You don't know what's going on in their mind or what kind of a bad day they may have had. Just try not to engage. Number one, don't do anything that's going to cause another driver to be upset, right? Don't pull in front of them. Don't cause them to swerve. Don't cause them to brake really hard. But then if you do encounter a driver that just won't leave you alone, they're wanting to engage, never pull over to try to settle it. The best thing that you can do is let them pass, slow down if you need to, let them go on their way. If they are continuing to go after you, trying to make eye contact, the best thing to do is drive to a public place, a well-lit area, and get help or call 911.
And speaking of making calls, a lot of people are using like hands-free devices now. Is that any better? Does that help when you're driving to use a device that's hands-free instead of picking up your phone and holding it to your ear?
Yeah, in a lot of ordinances throughout the state of Texas, actually more than 90 municipalities across the state of Texas have hands-free ordinances because we do not have a statewide ban on texting while driving. Texas remains one of only 4 states in the nation without a statewide ban on texting while driving. So without that ban, a lot of cities have started enacting their own hands-free ordinances. That does lead to some confusion when you have this patchwork type system where drivers don't know if the city that they're in has a hands-free ordinance or not. But the research from the Foundation for Traffic Safety finds that hands-free does not necessarily mean risk-free. So even if you're using some of the newer technology available in vehicles today, that hands-free technology could still be causing cognitive distractions. And so really we encourage folks, do not use that type of technology for anything other than the operation of the vehicle.
Okay. Now, Doug, this is a true confession. This is on the hazards list, I know, but I am guilty of drowsy driving. I mean, I have a 3-year-old. Sometimes I'm tired and I go to work very early, but drowsy driving is very dangerous too.
It really is. And Starling, a lot of people actually experience drowsy driving. A lot of people are working long hours. They work all day long and then they have errands and then they're stuck in the traffic on the way home and they can get drowsy in that stop and go traffic. It's really important that if you feel like you're falling asleep, pull over. The best thing to do is just pull over, get out, do some exercises, get your mind into a different place.
I was with you until you said do the exercise.
Do anything that you can, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm not going to fall asleep. Yes, I'm drowsy, but I'm not going to fall asleep at the wheel. Unfortunately, it actually does happen. And then before a long road trip, we recommend that you get a really good night's sleep. With the holidays, right around the corner. They'll be here before we know it. A lot of people will be taking long road trips for Thanksgiving and for the year-end holidays. We recommend that you get at least 7 hours before a long road trip.
That's nice. I got to write that down and make sure my husband's aware of that.
At least 7 hours.
Yeah. Well, it is inevitable, unfortunately, that most of us are going to have our cars break down on the road at some point. What do you recommend when that happens? You're driving down the road and your car breaks down. What do you do? Well,
it's really hard to say that you need to do this every single time because we never know where we're going to break down. We don't know what the traffic conditions are going to be like where we break down. But there are a few key rules or key guidelines that most safety experts agree on. The number one thing is if you can safely get out of the lanes of traffic and pull over far from the lanes of traffic as possible, it's best to stay inside your vehicle with your seatbelt on and call AAA-Texas roadside assistance or some other type of roadside assistance from inside the safety of your vehicle. Now, if there's one of those cases where you can't pull over, your vehicle's stopped in the lanes of traffic, you don't feel like you're safe, maybe perhaps it's at night, but you can get somewhere safely, then you want to do that. The number one thing that you should think about is don't panic, but think about what is going to be the safest thing for myself and for the passengers in my vehicle. If you can get somewhere safely, you want to do that. Well, before you leave the vehicle, though, you want to try to alert other drivers that you've experienced some type of problem, whether you turn on the hazards or pop the hood, whatever you can do to alert other motorists so that they don't end up hitting your vehicle.
Wonderful. And we're almost out of time, but there's something I want to touch on before you go, is the fact that a lot of people may not be aware that AAA headquarters is right here in Coppell, and then you also have a branch office right here in Irving. So what happens at those locations?
We do, right there at MacArthur and 635, the AAA-Texas branch office, and that's where folks can come in and talk with travel agents for free to get some great money-saving ideas for fall travel, for the holiday travels, you know, whether you want to explore the possibility of a cruise or a Grand Canyon railway excursion.
Yes.
Yeah, a train ride through the Grand Canyon. I mean, whatever vacation you have in mind, the AAA-Texas travel agents can help you get your family on that vacation and save you money.
Did my husband call you?
That.
Because I know he looked in the AAA magazine and he said, look, there is a train ride through the Grand Canyon. It's like a
awesome.
3-day trip or something. Yet we just looked at that over the weekend.
You could do various packages. They have a great holiday one as well. But this is really awesome for the kids because you have like music, Old West type music, and you really get to see the scenery, and not too many people travel by train anymore. So it's a really unique experience. So there are lots of ideas that our travel agents have for unique experiences, something that also would cater to all different types of ages in the family.
And it also brings a lot of jobs to North Texas, having you here in Irving and in Coppell. I often see advertisements for AAA-Texas hiring.
We're growing, absolutely. And you know, anybody that's looking for a position, you simply go to AAA.com/careers, see what type of jobs are available out there for you, whether you want to plan your next vacation, stop by the AAA-Texas branch office, get an insurance quote, stop by the AAA-Texas branch office. And you know, the membership value is so incredible when you think about it. You know, you're paying this annual fee, you know, $50+, but you've got it for the year. And if you use your card, this is what a lot of people forget about. If you use that AAA card for the discounts and rewards programs that we have, lots of retailers, whether it be restaurants or hotels, offer discounts for AAA members. You can pay for that membership in no time. Plus, you have your roadside assistance when you need it.
So true. That's why we got our membership. We thought, oh, this is great. We get a discount at a hotel. I'm telling you, this is like two confessions. And then I'm like, wow, we get other discounts too. So it really does pay off. It's very beneficial.
It's great. I mean, you can save 20, 30, sometimes up to 40, 50% using that AAA card with those discounts.
And what final thought would you like to leave us with?
Drive safe. You know, here we are, everybody's busy, everybody's going to be in the rush of the holiday season soon, and we just want everybody to remember that nothing is more important when you're behind the wheel than getting to your destination safely, getting your kids or your friends to the destination safely, and also just remember that any action that we take, you know, we have to remember what could be on our conscience. If we cause some other type of collision, or if we cause another permanent injury, or even worse, a fatality to somebody. So really just take it easy. If you're gonna be late, you're gonna be late. It's better to be late than to arrive, you know, and be sorry, or never arrive and be sorry, right? So just think about that and really come out to the Teen Driver Safety Fair on October 15th. We're gonna have lots of information and resources for parents and for those new drivers who are gonna be out there sharing the road with all of us.
Thank you, Doug. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome. And thank you for watching. I'm Starlene Stringer. Please be sure to join us on Thursday, October 6th at 1:30 p.m. for our next edition of Open Line. Our guest will be from the Irving Arts Center. If you have questions, email them to ictn@cityofirving.org, and we'll get answers for you on the next edition of Open Line. We'll see you then.